When I was diagnosed, nobody really says to you, oh, this is what we can offer you as the government, there's support, get a disabled badge, these will help you long term. So I really struggled when I was diagnosed, and it's only sort of now that I'm aware of what's out there to actually get support. So now I encourage that conversation with people that are now newly diagnosed and say, you know, do this. It's really encouraging to be able to get that support. So I didn't really know much about it, and looking at jobs, so luckily I was in a job at the time, but when I was made redundant, I then struggled to find a job, because you know, what information do you give them that is going to sway your decision of getting that job? So I think it's still a lot of changes for the government to be made, but I think it's definitely helped. Friends and family, it's really tricky. With friends, I would say they've just been supportive, just having open conversations with them. They've been really supportive about it since I was diagnosed. So yeah, friends and family have been great.
For me, the biggest challenge has been the government. So they haven't been as strict with legislation. So it's only like now that a lot more stations are becoming accessible. So you've got lifts and things like that for people in wheelchairs, and the same for deaf people. There's much more visual information. So before it was just announcements. Now you've got more TV screens and things. But also, when you're a disabled person at work, you get given a budget for access to work. So this is for you to spend on adjustments that you need. So for me, it might be an interpreter, it might be someone dialing into a conference call and typing out what's being said, and then it'll come up on screen. And the access to work scheme is very bureaucratic. They make it deliberately difficult, and it is a barrier sometimes when you first start a job, and if your manager isn't aware of your disability or the disabilities in general, and you're trying to explain to them that you've got to go through all the paperwork and everything, it can be quite difficult when you're trying to form that good relationship with your manager in the first few months or whatever. HSBC is being really great in that respect. Just sort of throwing all the paperwork out the window and don't worry about it. That's good. But I know people who struggle because you have to submit invoices every month. Your manager has to stand there and spend lots of time with paperwork. And I think the government could do a lot more to make that better.
What I would say is what's really important is to get a support network that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be from the same experience, but just someone who has had a similar experience going through something life-changing can really, really help. Like, I recall some conversations with people who said, just make sure that at the very beginning you keep your options as open as you possibly can. It's really important to not shut down any options, because you don't know where this journey is going to take you. It can take you around a very, very nice and easy gentle bend, or it can take you down a 90-degree corner at any point in time. And it can have to do with the physical side of things, as it is in my case, or it can be with the mental side of things, which is a very, very important component. And if anything, I think that the NHS in particular is fantastic dealing with the physical challenges that you undergo in a situation like this. But the mental challenges are very much overlooked, and they're very, very difficult sometimes to deal with. Like, I can just mention that the experience that I had is vastly different from the experience that my wife had during the same process that was happening. And the way it has affected me mentally and physically is very different to the way it has affected her mentally, and well, physically hasn't really, but apart from having to lift wheelchairs in and out of cars, like that kind of thing. But so I would say the provision of mental health services to newly disabled or newly injured people that's where my journey felt that there's been the biggest shortcoming.